professor at GL Bajaj Institute of Law. We welcome you all and are honored by your presence for the webinar. My first question goes to Ms. Sanchita, Madam Sanchita. You have recently been awarded as Emerging Sustainability Leader 2025 by Business World. From a leader's perspective, please elaborate what role consultants can play in water conservation. Madam
Uh,
Sanchita. Yeah,
First of all, thank you, Shrestha.
yeah.
And thank you to the team at Exneco and to everyone joining us today.
Thank you.
It's always refreshing to speak on water because in the consulting world, we often end up talking around water in jargon and compliance codes, while forgetting how deeply personal and political it really is. And if I may add, asking a consultant about their role is like asking salt what it does in a recipe.
One.
It's quiet, foundational, and if done right, you only notice it when it's missing. But in all seriousness, here's what I believe. Consultants are translators, and I'm speaking only from my perspective, as a consultant, as a founder, and a sustainability consulting founder of a sustainability consulting firm. We are translators, not of language, but of complexity into clarity, whether it's crafting a CBAM roadmap for a company like SAIL, aligning EPTs with water linked emissions for Jindal Steel Power Limited, or designing ESG compliance for infrastructure giants like GMR. Our role begins when businesses are willing to ask, why don't we know yet about our water impact? We go beneath the surface, connecting groundwater abstraction with GHG accounting, linking water risk to trade exposure, and translating statutory language into actions that operations teams actually adopt. In that sense, consultants help business make peace between intention and execution. We also bring pattern recognition across ministries, margins, and mistakes with our public sector engagements. We have seen this repeatedly. Water is rarely the problem, Shrestha. Disconnection is. Disconnection between departments, between policy and local reality, between what's documented and what's done. Now, consultants carry the power to thread the gaps, often silently, and it should be like that, by sitting between EPC contractors and environmental officers, between CSR teams and regulatory bodies, asking the uncomfortable but necessary questions. What those questions can be. Who's tracking post treatment water quality 6 months later? Who's paying for sludge disposal after the awards are won? So we play the long game, not because it's easy, but because someone must hold memory in systems designed for short term optics. So, at our best, if I just put it kind of in a nutshell, we restore moral and institutional continuity because water doesn't just flow through pipes, it follows through value systems. And I feel and honestly hope that everybody present here believes in the same thing. Our consulting role, if we choose to elevate it, is to bring businesses back into conversation with their ecological and social consequences. Because water today is not just a sustainability line item, it's a brand risk, it's a climate red flag, and increasingly a geopolitical determinant. If you just recall how it happened between India and Pakistan a few weeks back, consultants must move from checklist keepers to consciousness builders. In ancient Indian texts, apa wasn't just water, it was memory, it was emotion, and elemental rhythm. And perhaps our true role as consultants, that's what I earnestly believe, is to help institutions remember what they were never taught, to move in rhythm with the planet again. Perhaps we have forgotten that. So thank you, and over to you, Shrestha.
Wonderfully said. We should move in rhythm, and we have forgotten it, and we have to work on it again. And as rightly pointed out, consultants are like salt in food. So they really have a big role to play when it comes to water conservation. So now my next question goes to Dr. Devjyoti Mohanty, Mr. Devjyoti Mohanty. You have an experience of more than 30 years across various sectors. Some of these sectors are manufacturing, water treatment, renewables, not for profit, and investment banking. So, what mantra would you give to green consultants to be a catalyst in water conservation?
Yeah, thank you,
Yes,
Srivastava. Am I audible?
yes, sir.
Thank you, Srivastava. Thank you so much. In fact, I cannot put it better than what Sanchita has mentioned. Yes, the consultant, I believe in more businesses than other need to be the silent variety. Uh, in terms of conservation of water across industries, it is more to do with reusing it because, as mentioned earlier, it is not just a line item, it is also a cost item. And that cost is much larger than the monetary value that is paid for using of groundwater. So various industries have started doing that, and not that they're doing it now, they've been doing it much earlier. But one major thing that one has seen is at least the schools are now putting in that effort in not just making it a one-page project in a year, but they're trying to really see what is happening and how things are happening. So at least on a ground-up level, things are happening. But for a consultant, the consultant at times also gets frustrated. Not that I am telling that one should not. But as Sanchita said, there is a gap between what is the policy and what is on ground. For example, there is an arsenic treatment plant set up by an earlier company where I used to work, fully functional, 8 years. Suddenly the government says you can't draw water.
Okay.
So now if we don't draw water, the groundwater already contaminated goes back into undoing the 8.5 years of work that has gone. Now, the
Okay.
policy says there is arsenic treatment. The policy says you cannot draw groundwater for commercial use. So what is the policy? I mean, is it a small suicide note that is given out, or is it a murder statement, or is it almost a 302 where you don't have a choice, but you die slowly? So those are issues which a consultant bears with it. And as a consultant, you have to be there for the long haul. You can't just go around and say, I'm going to sell you a RO unit and get out. So there is a difference between being a consultant in the sustainability space and being a salesperson. I'm not saying that consultants are salesperson. Yes, they have to be. To earn their living, they have to be. But for water, as an emotion, as Sanchita very rightly said, you can't literally or figuratively play around with it. It is there, right up in your face, and you have to resolve to at least manage using water. So as a consultant working in different areas, the water management has to come in. It's not that I dig a borewell and I keep pumping out water whether I need it or not. There has to be a requirement, like electricity as a utility. If I need 100 kilowatt of power, then I need to know what amount of water do I need. Because if my water needs a particular product or a product needs the water for manufacturing, there is a cost that goes into it. So we know. At times it is like, reminding the user that, okay, this is how and what it should be. Yes, there are challenges when majority of the users believe that they know more. So you have to bear with that. So it's more like a wicket keeper job, In cricket, if you dive and take a good catch, that's your job. If you drop a difficult one, people look at you with angry eyes. So I guess that's part of what we have all signed up for. But I'll again like to reach out to Sanchita for amazingly putting across very nicely what a consultant is. I think I will use it going forward. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, very rightly said, sir. So, the work of a consultant is really very challenging because they have to walk a tight rope, and there are so many things that they have to look into and balance and work, and they really can work towards water conservation, and we really can understand from the various examples that you have given, very rightly said, sir. Now I move on to the to Dr. Devanshu Srivastava. Sir, you have done your PhD in intellectual property laws and have been what role can you have been what role can be facilitated with prestigious excellence in research awards. So, where, according to you, is the gap in national water remission, and what role can consultants in green businesses play in bridging this gap?
Thank you so much, Shrishta ma'am, for having me. And it's great to be in part of how Sanchita ma'am and Rajas are rightly mentioned on to. So, both as an academician, when I see it with the lens of how I present it in my classroom and how the students want to bring it up. So, the National Water Mission in India was, I would say, it was an ambitious event. It was an ambitious, and I'm calling it event purposefully. That yes, it was a necessity to be brought up, but as and after listening to the panel out here, we understand that the policy do comes into play after the necessity. And I'll borrow the line that Sir used, that water is somewhere on the line and the cost item. But before that, it is also a necessity. If we divide India into a perspective, and that's what also how the NWM or the National Water Mission divides as well, is dividing India into rural and urban. And one thing that goes very common clearly is the concept of water out there. So, while aiming for the water conservation, the minimized wastage and equitable distribution, there are certain gaps which are left on to, and these includes lack of dependable water resources in the certain areas, rampant groundwater contamination, over extraction, as Rajasthan was rightly mentioning, uneven geographical terrain, and scattered rural habitations are few of it to be taken on. Now, the disconnect between water related bodies, that is groundwater, surface water, irrigation, domestic usage, often leading to overlapping functions and lack of transparency in sharing. Now, as consultants, both in the green and more of, like, consultants also comes way in expertise. So I would resonate with what Sanchita ma'am said. So the role of consultant is more of a specialized expertise and a holistic, sustainable approach. They can conduct water audits to be a very precise on how to take it up. But where this is coming up is adoption of green technologies. I was also listening to people in the previous panels as well and emphasizing on a better green technology. Radhasa was rightly, and as an anecdote when he shared about that arsenic treatment plant. Now, we today, I'm just giving you an example as a consumer. So we just want an RO and a water purifier installed, irrespective of how those water and other things are taken in. Even one such component getting on a higher side. So this more requires with a policy work, and the policy should come after requiring that necessity and doing that ground level work. And that's a role where a consultant, like one from us or all of us together, can definitely talk to bring water. I would also compliment Exneco for bringing this topic of things and how that we can become as one of those particular forums. Not only if we combine each of the talks that we are doing today with different forums, we can definitely come out with a working paper to the government emphasizing on the necessities, which is more as a consultant to be bringing on. Not only that, one last point that I like to mention as that how to bridge that particular gap is engaging the stakeholders. Now, engaging stakeholders, we need to identify as a stakeholder. When it comes to water, each one of us living on earth would be a stakeholder to it. So providing training and integrating water management alongside sustainability into the core business operations. These consultants can drive a cultural shift towards a responsible water stewardship, ultimately contributing to the National Water Mission's objectives and overall India's water security as well. So this would be my submission.
Very rightly said, sir. In fact, there is a lot of groundwork to be done, a lot of policies to be brought in place, and even the requirement has to be identified and measured. So, all this together can lead to a better world tomorrow, wherein we can conserve water in a much better way and manage water much better. So, my next question goes to Madam Sanchita. So, as founder and director of Vision 360, you bring a process oriented and purpose driven approach to your consulting practice. In your view, what makes a consulting intervention in water truly transformative? And as clients increasingly look beyond certifications and reports, what processes should consultants adopt to ensure sustained and meaningful water conservation outcomes?
Thank you for that question, Shrestha. You know, in consulting, especially in water, transformation rarely arrives with a grand unveiling. It often begins as a whisper, and if you're lucky, matures into a movement, but only if you're lucky. Um, but if I may speak plainly, no water intervention is truly transformative unless it outlives the consultant. Let me explain what I mean. The transformation must flow beyond documentation. We have all seen it. Beautiful reports. Clients love those. Perfect KPIs. They love it. And then what? Shelf life of probably 2 months. At Vision 360, our effort is that we've learned to design for legacy, not presentation. So it's always a very slow, maybe, but a very steady graph for us. Now, what I'm going to quote here or tell you all may be of a lot of interest to Mr. Mohanty, because I'll take forward his conversation, his examples of arsenic, When we helped pilot the Purewell arsenic removal project in Uttar Pradesh in collaboration with our Hungarian partners, that's a very, very innovative technology, and it was completely funded by EU. We focused not just on deployment, but on ownership. Community members were trained to manage the unit. It was low maintenance, yes, but more importantly, it was culturally fitted, not just technologically transferred. That's what made it transformative. But that's, just a pilot, what we did. The solution was understood, owned, and spoken of by people, not by us. The irony is that EU was taking a note of this. They wanted a report. They wanted a POC. They wanted to do something good for the people of India who are directly affected by arsenic contamination. But sadly, maybe from, platforms like yours, we can take this forward where we can start ringing the bell or knocking the doors of the government, of the authorities, letting them know that this is a problem. This is a silent killer. There are global bodies, there are nations who are taking an account of this. They are taking a note of this, but sadly, we are not. We are losing our people because we do not care, because we are like so many people. You lose few, it's all okay. That's obviously a pain point, but I'll come to the next one. Where consultants must act as a long memory systems in our work with Noida Authority. Now, this is another example where we oversee environmental systems like STPs, emissions, and municipal compliance, because we are running an environmental cell there. We are not there to tick boxes. For 2.5 years, it's a very, very slow process, but a long time that we've been associated with them. The process, the progress is slow, but not our fault as consultants. We are there to build internal protocols so that even if the officer changes, the system doesn't collapse. And that's what true transformation looks like, when a process doesn't depend on a person. But sadly, is it happening in government offices from where the policies or the guidelines are driven? No. We introduce multi-level SOPs, surprise audit mechanisms, and train cross-functional teams so water accountability could be replicated, not just reported. Designed for empathy, not just efficiency. You can't conserve what you don't connect with. Our best interventions start not with Excel sheets, but with field immersion, like talking to sanitation staff, understanding where the pipeline really breaks. We once found a massive leakage point, not through meters, when we went for, my team went for the audit, because a staffer casually mentioned that this corner always smells sweet. So in sustainability, sometimes data follows intuition. Reframe outcomes as living systems. I often ask clients, what about your water initiative look like if it were a person? Would it be resilient, visible, nurturing? Transformative consulting isn't about outputs, it's about systems with soul. So, I'll again go back to our ancient texts. Water is not just life, it's the mirror. And a consultant's job is not to fix the mirror. That's not my job, but to make sure the reflection is honest. But do people like that? No. The future will not be shaped by those who install the most filters, but by those who understand how culture, governance, and infrastructure must flow together, like tributaries converging, probably. So consultants must learn to become that confluence. And thank you. I mean, that's kind of in a nutshell.
Beautifully put forward. In fact, culture and governance should go together. Very rightly said. And also that we have to not depend on meters, but there's also a point on empathy that we have to look into. And consultants have a duty towards showing the right reflection, and that's what the consultants can do, and they can bring about a big change. They can bring about a transformation. Very rightly said. Now I move forward with my next question, that is to Mr. Mohanty. What role can green consultants play when it comes to water treatment by MSME sector? Kindly elaborate with live examples from your experience as the founder of Haslo Consultancy. Mr. Mohanty?
MSMEs per se, like Dr. Srivastava pointed out, where in one particular case, we have seen the promoter actually sit his team down and explain to them what they need to understand while using water. That one, for a particular product which needed water treatment, there was a separate pipeline. There was a residue water that was stored, and that water was treated and put back. What was very surprising was he had done a little bit of a planning. So he had understood that there would be some 15, 20 liters of water required per person, and he had got some 35 or 40 people. He went back to the olden days of what I think our parents used to have in their houses or grandparents, the good old howdah. It was a normal cement concrete unit which would hold X liters of water, right? So that water was used through a pipe, and some of the howdahs were at a height, so gravity was there. So one was designated for hand washing, then there was a little bit of a filter which was for drinking water. And he installed, which was very unique. I mean, that time we sort of sniggered at him, those hard plastic pipes, which you twist and that thing doesn't open completely. It opens just a bit for enough water to come in. So now you can talk about a lot of things, but those are certain items which are used at the MSME level, because the MSME as an industrial unit has far many more other pressures than to think about water. See, they will think about the electricity because more than 50 kilowatt they can't draw. But for them, water they can draw with just a turning on of a switch. So for MSMEs to contribute, yes, they do a lot of contribution in terms of providing water for the livestock there in whichever area they are. All that they do. But slowly and steadily, they are all coming into reusing water, sensitizing their people about what they can do. And that stakeholder engagement is also taking a little shape where these people go back and in a smaller way try to implement it in their houses as well. So MSME, if you see, has a huge role. It's like if a household in India saves just 1 bucket of water a day, imagine the calculation that can happen. But then the water, unless it is reused or it is used to recharge water bodies, is still a challenge. I mean, as Sanchita and Dr. Srivastava said, that it will take a long time, and possibly the consultants should take it as a success, that even after them, if the project is a success, then that is sustaining a particular item in this entire huge universe. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for giving that wonderful example on the MSME and how even they have a role to play in water conservation, and especially consultants have a lot to do when it comes to water conservation. They can work as salt in food, as rightly said by Madam Sanchita. Now I move to Dr. Devanshu Srivastava. My next question to you is, as the founder dean of GL Bajaj Institute, do you feel that there should be courses for green laws for consultants and other professionals who are working towards water conservation, for creating the right awareness and informed solutions for businesses?
Ma'am, thank you for that question. And I would try to answer that in four folds. First of all, and as a mandatory course in any law school in our country, green laws, we do not call it as green laws. It's basically the environmental laws as a subject, which is mandatorily called, and the Bar Council of India, the parent body, has defined that. But looking at the conservations, looking at the times ahead, and directing that question to two folds is not only that when we have, and I would be a biggest advocate at that this is a present time where there is an undeniable need of specialized courses in green laws. And this not only includes the regular law students who are studying with their courses, but also my friends out here with Raja sir there, Sachitaman there, even they feel that why this necessity of law things is coming on. And I have four major portions to that point. First, informed solutions required legal understanding. So today, as ma'am said that they were working with the Noida Authority, or SERB when they are working with the MSMEs, I would like that when the consultant possesses valuable technical and business acumen, which pretty much with they have in their hands, and addition to the legal frameworks, and this I'm talking with both the compliance perspective and the knowledge perspective as well. So this not only includes, but a complex web of environmental law, as I was talking about, like the Environmental Protection Act, the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, National Green Tribunal, and the bodies like Central Groundwater Authority. Now, without this legal literacy, even the most innovative of the water saving solutions might face hurdles. And as I like to borrow it from there, with the implementation part, the compliance issues, and even the fail to leverage available incentives, many a times even this threshold comes from the organizations, whether it's a semi-government or the government organizations, yet this is not legally possible. Now, second most important perspective comes creating the right awareness is a legal as well as a technical imperative. Now, for the businesses, simply being using the terminology green or following that compliances, which is there, is not enough. But I personally take on. So it requires to operate within the bounds of law. Number one, to avoid penalties, to maintain a positive and a good public image. And third, and most importantly, that you build that trust with the stakeholders. Now, consultants who are equipped with the knowledge of green laws can effectively educate their clients on the legal obligations, on the consequences of non-compliances, and even the extends beyond where mere compliance to understanding the spirit of law and its role in fostering a genuine sustainability is also there. Thirdly, bridging the gap between practice and the policy. So as we have been said in the previous question as well, that there might be a good policy, which we have seen, oh, it's so wonderful as a policy. But what is the shell life, as Sanchita ma'am rightly pointed out? Now, until and unless the policies are implemented, policies are not made for being in that wonderful AC cabin as a bundled or a very good spiral copy there. But the policies, the real purpose of policies are how well and effectively they're implemented only. How they can act as that crucial bridge between what has to be done and how it has to be done. So the implementations, conservation efforts are not only environmentally sound, but also legally robust and economically viable as well. And finally, enhancing professional credibility and fostering a sustainable future. Um, Offering courses in green laws will not only equip the consultants and professionals with critical knowledge, but also enhance their credibility in a rapidly evolving green economy. Now, as institutions like ours, we are preparing future leaders and professionals. And I would like bring the example of two wonderful panelists that I am part of today with Raja sir and Sanchita ma'am. Now, even they can recall that if when they were having their basic education in the form of graduations and post graduations, what if these effective and extra certifications would have added to their number one, not only their internships and other things would have been framed that way, but also their basic level of understanding that what are the international standards. Now, today, when we are complying and with these courses, compliance of an international standards would automatically bring in that the bodies like EU, the bodies like Amnesty International, how well they are bringing it up. We are also getting those OECD principles being involved in all those. Now, if these things are brought, and finally, through this forum with Exneco, with wonderful consultants like here, I would even like to extend one level up of saying that can we collaboratively launch these courses? And the reason of launching these courses collaboratively is not to see a viable effectiveness out of it. Firstly, secondly, also and I guess that's one of the questions, although that was not directed to me in the chat box, but the awareness that we are trying to create with MSMEs out there, with authorities out there, can we have a triangle program where all the stakeholders, and when I say the stakeholders, I mean the consultants, the bodies, and the educational institutions, can we bring up with a holistic environment about these particular things? So with this, I like to rest here and move back to you, Shrishma.
Wonderfully said. In fact, when we talk of new courses, they have to be aligned with the policies and practicality. And yes, they will actually like they will actually have a good effect on consultants. The consultants will be more confident in what they are doing in their work, and especially as you gave the example of if a person does an internship completely in this area, his confidence level will be much more. So very rightly said, we have to bring all stakeholders together and make this reality tomorrow. So now
We have a question, Sister Ji, before moving.
Yes,
we have
sir.
a question, for especially directed to Sanchita. Anyone can answer. I think Mr. Devanshu has already answered a bit. As a common man, do we really understand the quality of water being consumed? Do we feel the awareness should turn into actions? What are the actions that can be taken up? So directed to Sanchita, but anyone can take up, and part is already
Yes.
answered by Devanshu.
Yeah. See, what I feel that in India, water has become a luxury. We are paying for a very natural resource, which is a right of everybody. You go abroad, you consume water that's coming from the taps. Here in India, probably when you talk about a shared resource, when you're talking about the shared responsibility, you also need to talk about the shared accountability. Somewhere, as citizens, we are also failing. Somewhere, at the ground level, at the education level, the importance of water hasn't been told to people, not to the parents, and parents need to know because it should come. Your child's First, education starts at home. So probably there we are going wrong. One. Second thing, as a consultant, what I feel that the major lapses are at the governance level. I'm not saying government level, it's a governance level. The policies that we are making, these are very complex policies, and there are always scope of running away. There are loopholes in that. And Indians, because everybody is an Indian here, and probably and as a consultant, I'm very, very sharp when I talk about these things. We all know where the lapses are. We believe in Jugaad. So even if we find some kind of a lab somewhere, we utilize it, we use it for our own good. Don't we do that? At our homes, probably our maids are doing that. Wasting water. At governance levels, there are policy lapses. I have seen so many of them, the guidelines. When I'm working with the Noida Authority, we directly will work with the Jal Division. We carry out audits, surprise audits, and you know what comes our way? Not just the money. I mean, money is a different factor altogether. The threats by the builders. And you know who gives the protection? It's the authority itself. And they call us the extended arm. So where is the lapse? Lapse is at the governance level. Lapse is at the home level where you're educating your child. And what Dr. Deevanshu said, probably what will work in this nation is collaboration. Collaboration where all relevant stakeholders come together. It's not just one or two. We can't work in silos anymore. I can't work in silo. I can't just say that, hey, I am the expert. I may be jack of all trades and master of none. I'm talking about water here, but as a consultant, probably I deal with multiple other assignments where we are talking about CBAM, we are talking about energy efficiency, and water is just a small part of it. When I gave two examples, these are those two examples where we are directly working with the government or with the multilateral agencies, and I figured out the lapses in our governance. So that's my take. Probably the best solution would be to join hands, not work in silos anymore.
Yes.
And probably take the government or the governance head on.
Yes, so all stakeholders should be brought together and they should work in helping each other out. And along with that, there should be a governance, and governance should be right. And starting it from the family to the government, at every level, the governance should be right, and that is the root cause of most of the problems that we are facing. So my next question goes to Devjyoti sir. What are the nuisances the green consultants should be aware of when it comes to treatment of water for drinking purposes and water for industrial purposes from ESG perspective?
See, from a industrial perspective, the circular usage has to be there. I mean, there has to be a reduction, there has to be a reuse, there has to be a recycling, and there has to be a proper disposal of any other waste. I mean, not just let a pipe out of the factory or the business entity and let the water flow down the road. While we are talking, majority of the segments are, and India is also a land of rivers. So finally, that water finds itself into some or the other water body. So circularity has to come in there. Industrial rainwater harvesting is a huge, huge challenge. Whereas Sanchita said, there is that major gap between who creates the policy and who asks you to stand down. There is a thin veil. They are the same people going here and there under different names and disguises, but then the devil is still there and it's the same devil. And the irony is that that elephant is in the room and there is nothing we can do unless we actually become a fist and then make that movement going. Access to clean water is there as a requirement for both in terms of drinking or in terms of even using it for washing your face or having a bath. That clean water is essential. And what is critical in across all this is the community engagement. So when I say community, every individual working in an industrial entity is a part of the community. So is a person who's wanting to have 5 liters of drinking water per day. That has to be there. And however much we do it, majority of the water that find itself into the rivers is sadly not treated to the effects it should be treated before it is released to a water body that actually impacts a whole lot of other people. So more or less, in a nutshell, I would say that any reuse, reduce, and then if you have to treat it before you discharge it. And of
Yes.
course, having access to clean water is also an essential element. See, treating of a water here and there is fine, but unless that entire entity exists, treatment will have no value after that if it doesn't.
Yes. Can I have inputs from other panel members as well on this?
Surely, I would like to just chip in one of the very good points which Sir mentioned. So I'll just give you a very intrinsic example of how we all know, like these education institutions, one of which I am part of, or the in the country wise, is located or is the parent body that comes out with would be a UGC. Now we all know University Grant Commission. That's a government body. It's a statutory body under which all the universities, all the colleges, and other things do comes into play. Number one. Number two is a mandatory requirement of NAC accreditations. Now, NAC accreditation is a part of how the university or the colleges would be ranked. And the NAC inspection is generally considered on 7 parameters, out of which sixth parameter, and I'd like to mention that openly here. Any college in the country who needs to undergo the NAC inspection would always, and one example that I can cite for JL Bajaj and the entire group of institutions, we have for each of the building a rainwater harvesting, a sewage treatment plant, and this is all working. We conduct audits. The audit reports are the part of that criteria 6 from when the inspection do happens on. Now, such a wonderful thing is existing. Now, similarly, and borrowing to what Raja sir rightly mentioned, can we have the group and we all the industries existing in our country today are commonly originating from one particular body, and 99% of this are government bodies itself, which is the controlling body. Can such a mandate from such regulating bodies be given for the verticals which are under them, that such things are required on the parameters which are? Now I'll tell you very honestly, as a law teacher or including my engineering faculties or other people here out there, we were unsure of how a rainwater treatment thing should be there, or but that taught me that my new house, which is located in a city in Uttar Pradesh, would automatically, like we know, I want a rainwater harvesting to be done and the certification should be there. Now we see today that there is a huge things being talked on, but the problem comes each city, and I guess four of us out here in this panel and my other participants who have joined, we see each city, and we do all of us in our cities in whichever part we are. There would be one something called as a suburban thing happening where a flyover is going from above, and for the things there is an underpass existing in our cities. And for the month of May, now June, July, August, you find that underpass would be filled with water because of the rainwater. We see those pictures happening at Mulchan Pass in Delhi, and that's always becomes a talk of the town. Similar things happen. Why not till date can we have a mandatory rainwater harvesting plant situated right in the mid of the underpass where such water logging is happening on? Now, these are small problems from which we do can have an issue out of. And these small things where we see water loggings, where we see pit holes, where we see the management happening only during the monsoons each year. Each year, there would be during the monsoons, you'll feel electricity issues, you will get water-logging issues, whether it's developed city like that of Gurgaon, where I was part of, where I'm in Greater Noida presently, talked to be the one of the best technological cities, and even for industries as well. So we do have situations existing for one industry. Why can't we learn from that, the best practices being followed, and then have a close nexus that, okay, this is the best practice being worked. Can we replicate in our industries as well?
True. Very rightly said. And also, when we talk of water management, we have seen that we need to bring all the stakeholders together, and rainwater harvesting has to, as rightly said, if implemented, can actually do away with the water clogging that is happening across the city. And water management and the green laws and all these things are emerging words, and which have a role in future, which can help in shaping a better resilient society where water is for not where water is available for everyone, and it is available in the amount that everyone requires. And also the quality of water is also maintained. So here again, the previous panel talked about the future of water management, and this panel talked about what consultants can do. And out of this, we have come to the conclusion that all of us should work together, find out where the loopholes are, try to bring a solution to it, and there should be a proper utilization of technologies, and with these technologies we can very beautifully manage water, and water conservation will become a day-to-day activity, rather than being something which is discussed on forums. It would become a part of life, a way of life. And very rightly said, sir, if the government makes it mandatory, like for if we have rain water harvesting and sewage treatment plant everywhere, then a lot of water problems can be solved.